Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another edition of Paradigm Shift and Educational Comedy. And I'm Dave Kelso, and we're here with Richard Hamilton. And really, it's mainly Richard who's going to kind of be mostly the star of this one today. Because I don't really have much to talk about, but he does, because he's been noticing some trends that I've been too busy with things to really pay attention to on Facebook, and he wants to go into his observations. And then he's about to embark on a bit of a nutrition, weight loss thing, product called Tiny Tangerine that he bought
Tangy.
via Young.
Tangy.
Oh, Tangy Tangerine. My bad. Tiny. I'll correct it in the description later. My bad. Okay. Tangy.
It's just been part of the energies lately.
Yeah. Tangy Tangerine. And, our friend Richard Riley, another Richard, we're going to be seeing him on PSEC here sooner rather than later, actually. But, he's taken that and, he uses that stuff and, he's built like a fucking tank, like full six-pack and everything. And he's like totally into health and nutrition and all these different products and stuff. And of course, even before Richard Riley, his YouTube channel is Pennywise Wellness, by the way. Go subscribe, be nice, light things do. But even before we met him, oh, and subscribe to this channel too, by the way. Don't forget. Before we met Richard Riley, we'd also heard about Tangy Tangerine through Alex Jones on InfoWars stuff too. But as much truth as he puts out, he's still running a business, and it's like, okay, how much of this is Alex promoting a good product that works, and how much is this him trying to make money for the InfoWars store, right? So our friend Richard Riley, who we actually met on TSU, ironically, before that thing went. Yeah, he's kind of like living proof that and a bunch of other products actually do work as advertised. So Richard decided to get himself some Tangy Tangerine, and he's also going to be explaining that and everything he wants to do with that. And we'll periodically, once every few weeks or whatever, also kind of have an update on Richard's progress with that, to keep y'all informed. So yeah. Other than that, I'm just gonna kind of like shut the hell up and let Richard take it from
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Kelso. First off, I kind of want to get into some of the stupidity that I've noticed on Facebook. And I call it stupidity because Facebook, as of late, has been, well, at least within the last week, has gone down the retarded path of featuring things in their mentions that are just absolute horse shit. And the reason I say that is because the trending trite that they decide to put in there is just absolute crap. For example, we've got something about Tony Romo, like I could care less, some stupid retarded football player, no addiction to the American saga of phony gladiatorial games, rather, instead of gladiators slaughtering each other for the entertainment of the bread and circus Romans. We've got a bunch of roided up retards throwing a football, and people get more excited about a football being thrown than people seem to be about the future of our country and Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton and all of the important issues that are being brought up between those two candidates. Do we support tyranny, outright, utter tyranny, as Miss Clinton clearly demonstrates by her whole entire campaign, or do we support an outsider like Donald Trump? Now, I know Trump isn't perfect. I don't trust Trump any more than I trust Hillary, but I can at least say, to Trump's credit, that Trump has a track record of doing what he says he's going to do, as to where Hillary, everything she does, she then turns around and does the exact opposite, like typical status politicians. But I just think it's rather funny that Americans get more outraged by this other football player, whom I did a little tiny digging into, and I hadn't heard of until the other day because I don't care about football and I don't pay attention to football very much. You know, now every once in a while, okay, if my family's watching football and it's on TV and the Seahawks are on or something, I'll cheer the Seahawks because that's kind of my family's team, and that's Seattle and all that stuff, for the Oregon Ducks or something like that. Okay, every now and again it's good, it's fun, it's fun to watch, but I'm not obsessed with it like a lot of people are. A lot of people tend to be, they have this whole kind of addiction around it, and I just don't have that. I've never been addicted to sports. I've never been addicted to football. I'm probably the biggest sports addiction I have would be the Olympics, but mainly because that brings national pride to the United States and to the various nations of the world. It's a couple of weeks in which all the countries around the globe can come together for some peaceful or relatively peaceful competition, and try to get along with each other, and I think that's important, for the world to have a few reasons to at least stop the bickering and at least come together and, stand in harmony for a couple of weeks, or at least try to. But anyway, back to this Colin Kaepernick guy. Apparently, there's this whole outrage about this football player by the name of Colin Kaepernick, who's for, as I said earlier, who plays for the San Francisco 49ers. Apparently, what he did was he sat down during the national anthem. Now, okay, it's his First Amendment right. I'm going to say this, as pissed off as a lot of people are, and probably a lot of people would scream at me and say I'm, a dumbass or whatever, but hear me out here. It is his First Amendment right. He has a right as an American citizen to sit down during the national anthem. Do I agree with that? No. Do I think he's a whiny little entitled bitch who needs to have his head blown off? Yes. And that is an opinion, not a threat, by the way. I'm clarifying if Colin Kaepernick ever happens to watch this. I think he's a whiny little bitch. I'll say that right now. He's made his millions off of the National Football League, being this all-star football player. He had from what little research I've done, it sounds like he's got an all-white family who adopted him when he was a child and took him under their wing, and sent him to really good Ivy League schools, and he made it big on the football contracts and all that stuff. And how does he repay countries that's ever been in known human history? Well, he sits down during the national anthem and protests like a whiny little bitch about it, saying that black people are kept down, and that the black man is kept downtrodden. Now, to be fair, are there a lot of black people out there that have been shot by the police wrongfully? Sure. Are there a lot of black people out there that have been shot by the police for the right reasons? You're damn right there are, and that can be said for anybody in any race, of any color, of any creed, of any religion. There's good and bad in every sect and creed of humanity. Nobody's exempt from the rule. It's the H factor, is what I've coined it as, the human factor. We're all human. We all have similar traits to one another. We've got, good groups of people. We've got bad groups of people, and innocent people of all various creeds and colors get killed now and again, and it happens, and they get downtrodden, and they get hurt, and they get stomped on. That's the nature of tyranny, and I'm very much against tyranny. But to sit there as an entitled whiny asshole and bring attention to yourself and make a mockery not only of yourself but of your team and of your country that supported your ass and helped you get where you're going, it just brings disrespect all the way around, and I have a lot of grievances against my government right now. I don't like the feds. I think they're a bunch of corrupt crooks. I don't trust them at all. I have no trust for them anymore. Come to realize over the years that they're a bunch of, sold out globalist cartel owned, bought, and paid for, um, globalist paid pigs is what they are, and they've been controlling the American people for at least the last 160 years or more through psychological warfare, putting garbage in our food and water, spraying garbage in the sky, in whatever forms that comes in, doing all of their nasty globalist games that they play. I'm totally against that sort of stuff.
Let's put nanoparticulates of aluminum in jet fuel and car fuel and see what that does to the environment. Yeah, good idea.
Well, I mean, this is a known fact, but I mean, 100 low lead avgas, has high levels of lead content in it, and that's just a standard for aviation fuel, always has been. There's still plenty of lead in aviation gasoline, and back in the day, you could get leaded gasoline because a lot of carburetors in cars were a lot bigger, so they didn't get plugged up. Modern cars now, the carburetors aren't big enough, so you put leaded gasoline in a car, it's going to plug your engine up, and your engine's going to seize on you. That's why you can't drive with leaded gasoline. But anyway, yeah, I mean, they've been doing that crap for years, and whether or not they're, I've heard sources that claim that they're putting crap in the jet fuel and in airline stuff, but that's another can of worms that I can go down another time. I'm on the fence about that sort of stuff. I would like to eventually see, which I imagine when humanity is in that full state of exploring things and looking into things in full detail, I'm sure there's probably going to be guys like me out there and guys like Dave. We're going to come together and go, okay, let's settle this whole thing once and for all. Let's do a full scientific analysis.
Well, remember the geoengineering science videos that we went over?
Yeah, I remember that stuff, but
they had professionals in the industry coming up and saying, yeah, these aluminum particulates are in the fuel.
Well, again, that's not actual, full on. That's still claims. I don't care. There's a lot of professionals out there that say all kinds of things. Whether or not it's true is, and I'm not arguing with what they're saying. I'm just merely making the statement that, just because they have a professional title or they have, professional experience in a specific field doesn't necessarily mean it's true. I mean, Hillary Clinton, can you? I can hear themselves.
They also ran tests too, by the way. They actually, did scientific testing on different things. And when they went to the EPA and other places, they didn't want to touch it, if you recall.
Well, yeah. And again, that's still claims. I'd like to see that evidence for myself. All I heard was, just people saying that they had evidence and all of that stuff, which they do, I'm sure, because, and I remember, the head biologist for the United States Forest Service going, yeah, they've tested the soil and they've tested the trees and all that stuff, and they found aluminum. But anyway, I'd like to see a full scientific investigation, full analysis. I'd like to be part of that sort of investigation when the time comes. That's why I'm saying when humanity gets to that full point, I would like to come together with everybody in the industry, skeptical or not skeptical, and put all that information together and see what we can find. That's all I'm saying. I'm not arguing with the evidence. I know it's out there. I've seen it. It's just words are still words. I want to see physical footage, comparison tests, the whole 9,000 yard, the whole thing, the whole enchilada, every aspect tested, down to the T. But anyway, that's another can of worms for another time. But going back to the federal government thing and all of that stuff, I'm as much against the feds and, their corruption as anybody. I'm a patriot. I'm for the Constitution, and they violate the Constitution every day. They let Hillary Clinton walk away, prison free. They totally violated the entirety of rule of law. They totally let her walk free after she totally violated, United States security by allowing 30,000 emails to just leak off of her secret server and, get into potentially dangerous hands, which they definitely have by now. She totally violated her duties of office as Secretary of State, which is no shock to me, and that's just, scrape on the iceberg, really. She signed NAFTA and GATT, she was behind NAFTA and GATT, and, she supports the
Well,
partnership.
James Comey just didn't want to accidentally commit suicide. That's all that was.
No, I know. But point still standing, rule of law was totally violated. All that crap was violated, because the system's a corrupt piece of shit, going back to my original point. Thank you. Yeah, James Comey didn't want to accidentally be found with his neck sliced and have 9 bullet holes through his head, and, his wrists are sliced and he's hanging from, the shower curtains or whatever, and they'll say it was foul play, suicide or whatever. But, anyway, going back to Mr. Colin Kaepernick here, regardless of all of that shady shit, I still find it within me as an American to at least be able to stand up and be able to at least show a couple of minutes worth of respect for the noble achievements in which this country has done, such as, inventing the first powered airplane, putting a man on the moon, defeating the Nazis in World War II, pretty much fundamentally ending the Second World War with the detonation of 2 atomic weapons in Japan, which saved not only millions of Japanese lives, but millions of American lives, and pushing for technological marvels that the world had never seen before, and launching one of the greatest industrial revolutions of the 20th century. Without the United States, none of that would have been possible. The Revolutionary War, the Civil War, all of that. I think about the noble achievements in which this country strives to go for: civil rights, the Civil War, which was fought over, not just slavery, but of course states' rights. That's another can of worms that I could go into another time. But, I at least have it within myself to stand up for at least the good things that this country has tried to do and has tried to, the experiment, as it were. It's paying homage to the experiment in which the founding fathers had envisioned for, a free democratic representative republic, as it were, where the people have the voice, where the people can decide things and make decisions and decide their fate, decide their destiny. A handful of republics throughout history who have gone off that premise, and a majority of civilizations have been tyrannies where, a small group of individuals or one man get to decide the whole premise of the entire country. Well, we're a very unique nation. But I find it very selfish of this football player, who should be grateful for the fact that he is here in this country, playing football and making millions of dollars per game, as, according to living maybe in Africa somewhere where he's out in some mud hut, sleeping on a cow dung packed floor and, wafting flies off of his face and living in poverty and almost starving to death, which is, where his ancestors came from at one point or another, just like all of us. We were all once cavemen out in the middle of nowhere, out in the forest, scavengers, at one point. But I'm not going to sit around like an ungrateful, whiny little bitch and sit here and go, well, because this, and this, I'm going to protest by sitting down and showing disrespect, to my nation and not stand for the national anthem. And it, shows a clear lack of patriotism. Probably one of the richest African Americans in the United States, and he has no spine, and he just wants to sit down because black people are being gunned down and, inequality, income inequality. It's like, well, Mr. Kaepernick, if you're so against income inequality, why don't you play your games for free and stop taking those, $5 million checks every game, donate it to charity? Why don't you do something for your own race? Instead of blaming white people for your problems, why don't you fucking help your own community and stand up and be change within your own community and be, a Martin Luther King amongst black people. That's what the African American community needs right now. They need unity. They need peace. They need something that's logical, that they can stand behind, and that other people can look at and not be afraid of. These people in Black Lives Matter, these racist bigots who run around screaming, we need to go into the white neighborhoods and burn them down. We need to kill all the white people, blah, 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 shoot the police, wrap them up in bacon, cook them. That's no better than the KKK. That's domestic terrorism. People saying that ought to be, rounded up and thrown in jail. That's not okay. That's not the First Amendment. That's inciting riots. That's a federal crime. It's no wonder police are acting the way they are. I don't blame them. It's not that I don't understand that there are corrupt police officers out there within departments that, are roided up morons with the brain power of a cockroach that, think with their penis and, have a gun, or have an itchy trigger finger and are just waiting to blow something, go bang, bang at whatever moves, there are police officers out there like that. But that's not everybody. And unfortunately, this kind of action just incites the narrative that all police officers are bad, that, all African Americans are scum, which none of those things are true. None of those things are right. And I don't think Mr. Kaepernick, or whoever the heck this guy is, did himself any favors, and he didn't do the country any favors. He just made a bigger issue. And that's from the main standpoint. But another point that I want to play on here is the devil's advocate. And I want to go into the whole, what if he isn't actually protesting sort of thing? And what I mean by what if he actually isn't protesting, going back to my original point of how football is the modern gladiatorial sport, it's almost like WWE, world wrestling entertainment. What if Mr. Kaepernick was paid some large sum of cash, by the National Football League to do this little stunt on national television when he knew that every camera and their mother would be shining right down on those San Francisco 49ers in their nice little red uniforms? What if the NFL paid him to sit down? I mean, it's not like we haven't seen the NFL ever do any political broadcast rigging. I mean, that's just impossible. That's never happened in the history of the NFL, right? Right. I mean, so to me, it's just kind of like I'm sitting here going, this could just be another false flag in and of itself. They could have paid him a huge sum of money to do this stupid little stunt on TV, knowing that Americans everywhere would get enraged. All of the quote unquote patriots would get enraged over this whole thing and, flip their shit and go nuts and go, oh my God, he can't do that. That's against the law, and totally flip out of the whole thing, get totally sidetracked, distracted from what's going on. Hillary Clinton continues doing her dirty deeds, done dirt cheap, cyanide, poisonous contracts, yada, 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 you name it. I just find this is the thing to me. If it is a false flag, to me, it's really sad that Americans aren't worked up over Hillary Clinton, which any of us who are awake know why. But yet, a football player demonstrates his right to be a whiny bitch, everybody loses their minds. It's kind of like, really? If America were this concerned about Hillary Clinton, our country would be in a lot better shape. But people seem to be more fascinated by some football player that I've only known about for the last couple of days because it happened to be trending on the worthless Facebook trending posts of all of these stupid, irrelevant things. I saw one earlier where this guy was like trending. It was like McChicken something, and some dude was screwing a McChicken sandwich with his ding dong. It's like, okay, so more people have time to look up videos of some dude on Twitter screwing a McChicken sandwich with his ding dong, but 30,000 deleted emails violating national security, Trans-Pacific Partnership, NAFTA, and GATT. Oh, too much information. Can't look at that. Can't focus on that. That's just too scary a thought. But we can focus on McChicken Ding Dong Screwer because some guy got dared to fuck a McChicken sandwich. I mean, to me, this is just incredible. It just goes to show how good the globalists are with distracting people from the real issues of what's actually going on. I mean, I shared a couple of articles on PSEC because it's like, okay, here's another example of some whiny little entitled African American bitch, you know, who should be ashamed of himself for making all the money that he's making and then, you know, totally spitting on the very country that made him a success. You know, you'd think he would have an idea of what respect is all about and standing up for everybody, you know, realizing that this is one of the best countries that's ever been instead of saying some stupid ignorant statement, you know. But to me, false flag or, you know, legit, you know, it's all a distraction to me. And it's just amazing how well the elites craft this whole game and how they play it. You know, whether they use Black Lives Matter to then trigger guys like this to do stupid stunts like this, it just is a further chain reaction of problem, reaction, solution, and people kind of tend to get caught up in the whole frenzy of the whole thing, and just it's just really amazing to me. You know, I all I can say is to the globalists, bravo, because you are doing the real good job of trying to distract humanity, but at the same time, I'm laughing because it's so obvious that, you know, any unbrainwashed third grader could probably see through your lies. I'm just, you know, people are more enraged by what some football player did at an NFL game than 30,000 deleted emails violated national security and, you know, the fact that she violated rule of law and walks away scot-free.
And the Pentagon just lost how many trillions of dollars again all of a sudden? Oops. And nobody cares about that. You know, everybody will bitch if, you know, their welfare check went down a couple of bucks or something, but the government just, you know, loses another X amount of fucking trillion or what it is, and it's like, don't care about that. That doesn't concern me as I'm Kermit the Frog drinking my tea, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's none of my business.
Pretty much. And then another thing, you know, Pentagon loses another X trillion amount of dollars, you know, and this is going towards, you know, I can't say I'm either, you know, conservative or, you know, classic Thomas Jeffersonian liberal. You know, I'm somewhere around there in that area. I'm more of I don't even really have a political affiliation anymore. I'm just kind of do what fucking works. That's my policy. If free market is more efficient than government on the particular issue, use the free market. If the government is more efficient on the particular issue, use the governmental way of doing it. You know, to me, it's retarded. You know, nobody questions. I mean, Dave have talked about this before. Nobody questions when hundreds of trillions of dollars are spent for national defense. You know, but if we bring up the idea of free healthcare for our citizens, and I mean good healthcare, not Gestapo healthcare, where, you know, they decide what you get.
Government funded, not government controlled. Obamacare is government controlled. If it was government funded, it would just be like, here, send your medical bills to this address. It wouldn't be, oh, well, we're going to dominate everything.
Yeah, exactly. You know, yeah, Obamacare is a perfect example of that. Gestapo, you know, you've got your death panels who sit there and decide whether you get to live or die. It's very, very European and socialist. Yeah, no, throw that out with the used sewer water in the back alley, you know. No, I mean, the healthcare industry should have stayed private from day one, but everything down to VA, all of that shit should be, you know, sent to the government straight paycheck, or, you know, straight bill, you know, direct to the Department of the Treasury, or, you know, Surgeon General's office, or wherever the hell. And every medical bill in the United States, if you're a legal citizen, you should have a right to free healthcare. That should just be one of the benefits. We're big modern nation with, you know, industry out of our ears, even still, as much as they're trying to destroy it. You know, free healthcare should be something that should come along with the perks of being a citizen here, as well as owning.
You know what? I believe in public aid. I just believe that this country's never had public aid. It's public aid in this country right now is more like one of those Orwellian doublespeak oxymorons, because obviously if nobody was worried about whether or not their absolute bare basic survival needs were going to be met, then they wouldn't be under stress, which means they would be able to think critically and not be traumatized, which would allow them to actually go off and have a career and, you know, so on and so forth with that security net. But that's not what this country's public aid is. System, a socialist welfare system, in which once you're on the system, it's a bitch to get off, because you can't rise up out of it again. Because if you try to rise up out of it, I mean, it's not like you could snap your fingers and 1 second you're on it and the next second you don't need it. It's a process over time. And if you try to rise up out of it, the government goes, you're starting to make some money there, so you better back that off. Otherwise, we're gonna cut everything, and you can die on the street. We don't care. You better know your place. So it's like the welfare system is like a fucking roach motel, like a mousetrap. And once you're in the trap, it's a bitch to get out, unless all of a sudden you, for whatever reason, make a guaranteed, you know, stable job to where it's like, oh, you know, you're making more than enough money, and you know it's okay to leave that system, which far and few people are able to do that. A lot of people that are on welfare, they're lucky if they can get a job at Walmart, which obviously doesn't pay enough to where it's like, oh, okay, I can cover all my bills, it's cool, no problem. The welfare system wants to keep you trapped, and that's not public aid, that's public slavery, that's nanny state.
Mm-hmm. Precisely. Yeah, I mean, it's really the of the, and if you look at the African American community, they replace, you know, Jim Crow and slavery, outright slavery and sharecropping, with the welfare system. And the reason why so many African Americans are destitute on welfare is because, yes, they use that very premise of, you know, they encourage the dysfunction. You know, they'll give you more money, welfare money, if you have more kids. But there's a twist. They'll give you even more money if you're single and you have all of those kids. You know, as where if you're together, they penalize you for being together because, oh, family unity, how dare you? That's counter the globalist agenda. We can't have that. It's Agenda 21 down to the very core. You know, all these single black pregnant moms, you know, that have 5, 6, 7, 8 kids, you know, and they're making $8,000-$9,000 a month, but the only reason they're making that much is because, well, the government is rewarding them for being dysfunctional and being, you know, and it's sad, you know, because it's all they know, and you know, they know no other way. That's how they've always survived, and that's how their parents survived, and that's how their grandparents survived. They literally know no other way. That's all they know, is how to be dysfunctional. And it's all they've been taught, and that's all they learn, and that's all they've learned, and that's what they'll teach the next.
There's a lot of white people on that meme too, by the way. As a matter of fact,
absolutely,
it's gotten so bad that right now there's more whites on welfare than blacks, according to the latest statistic.
Mm-hmm.
It's just they're after everybody. They don't care what your color is. They want you locked down and by the balls, male, female, what color, they don't care. They want you by the balls and beaten down. If you're human, they want you enslaved.
Yep. And I can vouch for that because at work there's a bunch of employees over at our shop that are all on food stamps. They're all on food stamps, all on Oregon Trail cards. There's this one guy that works over there that has like 20 kids, and he's on food stamps. His girlfriend or whatever, he breeds like a rabbit. He's probably bred with 20 other girls. The county bought him a pair of dentures that he doesn't wear. He's a real fine individual. But it's one of those things. Yeah, color is not in the globalist psyche, as it were, in the globalist frame of reference. They don't care what color you are. Irish slaves were some of the most abused and poorly treated people on the planet. They abused them, and they were the last to be set free. Long after the blacks got liberated, then the white Irish slaves and child laborers got set free, like some 50 or 60 years after that whole thing. So yeah, they really don't care about you. They listen in their conquest, and it's been that way for centuries. But I'm just focusing on the African American community specifically because this is kind of with Colin Kaepernick and all that stuff, it kind of relates. But it's unfortunate with the African American community because, back in the 40s and 30s and stuff, although, yes, there was a lot of racism and Jim Crow and there was all that garbage going on, KKK and all of that crap, The black community was more united then in terms of family togetherness and nuclear family than even the white community at the time was. I mean, they were like the core of what it meant to have family unification. Every house had a father in it, every house had a mother in it. The kids grew up with some sort of sense of belonging and understanding. They knew who they were, they knew what they were about. There was no question. They were a family. The nuclear family was there. There was stability there. And unfortunately, it started with the African community. It just worked its way out like a pestilent disease. And now, majority, I heard one statistic, like 1 in 5 Americans now has a single parent, and not every person in that statistic is due to that specific problem. A lot of people, their parents divorce and, it just doesn't work out. Well, nothing you can do there. It doesn't mean your parents are dirtbags for getting divorced, but, it's one of those sorts of things, and it's very unfortunate and sad that, a community, a fine cultural bastion of the United States, which that's what the African American community is. I mean, hell, there's more, black artists out there that know how to sing than there are white artists, and I say that wholeheartedly, talent in the African American community, and that's without the African American community, we would not have a sense of what good music is or what dance is. The African American community has got it.
The main reason that the divorce rate is so high these days is because we're taught within the last few decades at least to be more materialistic, and I want to define what materialism actually is. Most people think that materialism is having a lot of stuff and being all about stuff. That's not what materialism is. Materialism is when instead of loving people and using things, you love things and you use people. It's treating people like a tool. When everything and everyone becomes a tool, and you dive totally into that state of apathy, and you start getting a society to where how big a girl's boobs are is more important to you than, who she is as a person. And, the girl's more concerned about how much money the guy makes or how his hair is combed or exactly what profession. And sometimes it gets down into such ultra picky, super outrageous standards. And, and now especially with, everything being photoshopped and stuff these days within, you know, the fashion industry, guys and girls ideas of like what the perfect dream girl or dream guy should be is literally doesn't exist in reality anymore, because they just photoshop the shit out of everything. There's been like full-blown documentaries on this stuff. People can look it up if they want. But we've just gotten so materialistic that people get married for the wrong reasons, and they don't they don't start as friends. They don't start getting to know each other. They don't build up a foundation of trust and love and appreciation and clear communication and authenticity and all of the things that matter. There's no bond there. The guy just wants pussy and tits and whatever, and the girl just wants this, that, etc. And of course, it's going to fall apart because there's nothing holding it together. And you know, if they happen to, you know, have a kid between one thing and the other, then that's what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, precisely. I mean, you know, we've become a society, and this has mainly been one of the unfortunate side effects due to rapid industrialization and the fact that the globalists are really good at dumbing down our education system with the Prussian style um, education system. Thank you, Nazi Germany. I mean, it's just, you know, it's there are multiple things that have gotten us where we are now, but you know, I'll focus on the rapid industrialization. We have become There's been such a culture shock in this country due to the mass amount of stuff we've been able to produce. You know, World War II really brought that on. I mean, we outproduced like everybody put together. Our factories were whipping out, you know, thousands of aircraft, you know, hundreds of thousands of firearms, you know, whipping out 6 battleships a month. You know, I mean, we were going to insane lengths to outproduce the Germans, the Japanese, the Italians, everybody. We were arming everybody. And I mean, that started with you know, a war, you know, and then after the war, you know, when the war was over and there was no money to be made in, you know, selling things to the Army and Navy and Air Force to go fight the Nazis and the Japs, you know, what do we use all this rapid industrialization for? Consumerism, of course. And then, you know, the Cold War kicked into overdrive, and you know, part of the I guess doctrine in defeating the Soviet Union was to just simply outlive the Soviet Union, meaning we were going to live, you know, luxuriously. You know, everybody was going to have a Studebaker, everybody was going to have a color TV, everybody was going to have, you know, a nice house, everybody was going to have a refrigerator, everybody was going to have, you know, and that doctrine worked. It defeated, you know, classic Politburo socialism, communism, and all of that nasty stuff that the Soviet Union brought about. You know, it totally worked. That single premise disintegrated the Soviet Union far more than our nuclear missile programs, the space race, or any of that crap ever did. You know, and it's not crap. I mean that, you know, figuratively, not literally. You know, it was the sheer amount of industrialization and being able to outproduce the Soviets in everything that we did, you know, on a consumeristic level that totally demoralized them and defeated them. I mean, you know, by the end of the Cold War, you know, everybody in the Soviet Union wanted a pair of Wrangler jeans and chewing gum. That's how bad it got for the Russians, you know, because they're sitting there going, shit, everybody in the West is living like kings while we're sitting here in a little tiny cement block house, you know, we're lucky to
A
have, you
little
know.
a little piece of reference information that's definitely needed here. Um, and what I'm about to briefly explain, people can look into great detail. There's a huge documentary you can YouTube search. It's called Century of the Self. It's a very long documentary, but it's well worth watching. It's about Edward Bernays, Sigmund Freud, all that stuff. Um, what happened in a nutshell? Edward Bernays, who is Sigmund Freud's nephew, he saw the Prussian educational system tactics, how it controlled Germany. But the problem that he saw was, okay, well, you know, the Germans were just kind of, you know, being used big time, and their prosperity quickly turned into uneasiness and being overworked and, literally under threat of the Gestapo. Like, yeah, you work the way we want you to work, and you're not allowed to quit your job, and fuck you. Um, and then he was looking at his uncle's research and also seeing what you were describing in America about all this industrialization going into prosperity. So he was thinking, okay, if you want to control and dominate a country, the way Hitler did it is not the way to do it. People get too delayed. The way to do it is through, materialism and, commercialism. So he needed to make, the latter part of the 20th century, moving into that, the century of the self, me, mine, apathy. So this is where psychological marketing started to come from. And so basically what he did, because because of the Nazis, propaganda was a really dirty word at the time, still is. So Edward Bernays came up with the term public relations, which is just another term for creating propaganda in order to get people to do what you want. Spin. And Edward Bernays is on record stating that it is the responsibility of the ruling elite of the world to control the thoughts, feelings, desires, and drive of the masses, under the belief that the masses are not responsible enough to govern themselves. And all the old practices of tyranny didn't work. So he's thinking, okay, we'll use marketing and consumerism. Because if everybody's so focused on themselves and become so apathetic and so me, they're going to be easy to control. They're not going to be able to unite. Now, Edward Bernays, as far as I know, was not in on the whole full globalist agenda, depopulation, and all the crazy stuff that we're seeing now. He actually wanted a bright future for humanity, but he wanted that bright future to be controlled through public relations and marketing. So this factors in huge. So watch Century of the Self. You can look it up on YouTube. It's a really good documentary, and I would recommend it for anybody.
Interesting point, Dave. Interesting multiple points, actually. But yeah, that goes right along with where I'm going with this whole thing. But, you know, yeah, rapid industrialization in this country is what destroyed the Soviet Union. It's what caused the fall of communism, the Berlin Wall, the whole shebang, And really, the space race, the arms race, all of that stuff is just an offset of, the rapid industrialization of consumerism within the United States. Sure, those are kind of independent things if you want to get really technical, but really they're one and the same because, a lot of the same companies that were manufacturing Barbie dolls were also manufacturing M16s for the Vietnam conflict. Mattel did actually make M16s. That's actually a joke made by Mattel, is a literal real thing. There were M16s manufactured by Mattel. But going back to that original point, you know, the rapid industrialization, along with the Prussian educational system and the slow draining of, the blinding of the American psyche, getting Americans so easily, self absorbed with the me mentality, has created, what used to be nuclear families where people were grateful for what they had and were grateful for the relationships they had and were grateful for one another. It turned all of that into, you know, the never ending vacuum quest for more. Part of why our economy is in so much trouble is because by the time everybody's 25, they want to have that that 5,000 square foot house with the, you know, 3 bathrooms and 4.5 bedrooms, and they want to have those two 60-inch plasma screen TVs, the 5 or the 3 brand new cars. They want to have all of this stuff, but they're rushing past how to build up to that point. Americans have forgotten how to save up, how to earn, how to,
Ooh,
work for,
that that brings me to another good point that most people either take for granted or they don't even know about it in the first place. When you go way back, and also using Chicago as one example, and I'm using this as an example because I've actually looked online, and you know you can see old blueprints and stuff for the lay of the land in Chicago, and actually see how few houses there were and how they were all spread out, and there was more room, and kind of look frame by frame at how things developed. Back in the day, even in the big city, houses were not so close together. They weren't neck and neck in the big city like they are today. And the mentality back in the day, because it was a more stable mentality. The mentality back in the day, like how now it's like, oh, if you're still living with your parents, you must be a slacker. You need to get out, you lazy bum. You're dependent on your parents, and everybody in a rush to leave the nest at 18 and go get their own place. So it was a completely opposite mentality back in the day. Back in the day, it was about generational homes. You were able to have way more property for a lot cheaper, and you were able to expand your home, literally build onto it as you needed to. And properties were big enough and affordable enough to where you could even build another home onto it if you wanted to. And the idea of multi-generational estates for family security to ensure that your bloodline always owned the property, and that your bloodline would always have a place to call home, so that when everybody making money with their jobs, they're going to put money into continuously upgrade and improving the home and the property, with the hope that later on down the line, grandkids, great grandkids, great great grandkids, etc., that those people would be inheriting a mansion estate. That's what it would build into. It was about it, being all for the family, and the family helping each other out. Nobody mooching off of anybody, nobody being a slacker, but everybody who's working pooling their resources, not to just barely make ends meet renting an expensive apartment, but each of them taking their own abundance and putting it into the family estate to continue to raise the value of that property, to continue to make that property better. And also back in the day, it was common sense to grow your own food. Back in the day, hardly anybody even knows how to do it. But the idea of, instead of owning a big farm and busting your ass to make money that way, you have at least enough property to be able to grow your own stuff to ensure your own continuity. And you could also share with your neighbors. Like if you grew certain crops and your neighbors grew other crops, and you could trade back and forth with each other. It was about the block that all the properties were on were united. The neighborhood was united. The family unit was united. It was all about family properties and family estates and united communities, and helping each other out, and growing your own food, so that nobody has to bust their ass on a farm. And it was all about unity and coming together and helping each other. But now, if you try to talk in those terms, it's like, oh, you just want to be a slacker mooching off your parents. No, what if you actually just want to build a multi-generational estate, so that you don't have to, no one in your family ever has to worry about being homeless. And so if you fall on hard times, it's no big deal, because you've got your home and you're growing your own food, so you're not going to go starving, and so on. And we've completely lost that idea and that mentality of unity and stability and security. We've completely fucking lost it. It's totally gone down the toilet for apathy.
Again, a very, very, very good point, and very interesting point. Yeah, we went from the country. The reason why the United States started out as one of the greatest ever to be, at least that we know of, besides maybe Atlantis, is that every American, or at least every continental, American, had property, had ownership, or at least most Americans did. They had, they had equity, they had multi-generational estates, like you were saying. But, that was slowly eroded away, with upgrade to this new house, upgrade to this new thing, upgrade to this new thing, and people just rush into new things without looking into them because they're totally blinded by, just me, consumerism, and, aren't paying attention to what's in the long run. So they sell that family estate that they've had in the family generation for, 10 generations or whatever. They sell it, not thinking about it. They buy that new home, and then, 20 years down the road, mom and dad get too old, so they have to sell it. And guess what? They end up in a retirement home where they get shitty food and they get treated like crap, and there are places out there that are like that, And back in the day, there were lots of instances of elder abuse and all of that crap, So you just gave up your family estate, your family livelihood that, your great grandparents had for a reason, because they were thinking ahead. They weren't thinking, only 5 minutes into the future. They were actually thinking, well, yeah, if hard times do happen and shit happens, well, we've got this piece of property. Well, you just sold that property to the bank, and now the bank owns what you had for generations. Yeah. And that is why there are 4 million homeless people in the U.S. now and over 18 million vacant homes, because, well, the bank bought up what that people did have that was not in the bank's control, and the central bank now owns all of that stuff. But that's a different can of worms.
They were thinking they were thinking 200 years ahead. We're lucky if our people in our society think 10 minutes ahead. Oh, look, exactly. Shiny thing. Let's go hunt Pokemon.
Exactly. And piss off some Illuminati worshipping, cocksucking veterans while we're at it. And I don't mean good kinds of veterans. I mean oath breaking scum. Bruce Reed, you know who you are. Anyway, going back to that main point, the Prussian educational system eroded away critical thinking. It eroded away any, questioning authority, questioning, the government, etc., and got us into this blind patriotism, which we saw very adamantly in the Cold War, obey, consume, all of that stuff that the CIA started with, mind control on television, Project MK Ultra and all that stuff. That stuff you can look up. It did happen. Still happening to this day, and you can see they even implement it on social media today. They try to keep you distracted, just like going back to the beginning of this whole, coming full circle to the beginning of the conversation, Colin Kaepernick. They keep you distracted on purpose. It's purposeful distraction. They know where to hit people, and they know what buttons to push, and going on, with the rapid industrialization of the United States, we've simply forgotten what it means to be grateful for what we have. I can't remember what original point I was going to go on. I was thinking about it a few minutes ago, but now it's disappeared out of my mind. But I had a really good point, and I was trying to remember where I was going with that.
When did you want to move on to Tangy Tangerine?
Oh, here in a minute. I wanted to get to that point.
Okay, because it's already been about an hour, and I'm starting to get kind of sleepy.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think of where I was going with that, but it's just full circle with, we've become so centered as a culture on rapid industrialization and everything else that we've totally forgotten how to be self-dependent, self-sufficient, independent, and
we've become the Fourth Reich. Instead of Heil Hitler It's Heil me, get your hate speech out of this campus, Trigglypuffism.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, and Colin Kaepernick's just kind of the center stage of all of that stuff, you know. But it's the same sort of thing, Americans have totally forgotten what, standing up for liberty, standing up for your rights are all about. And it's just a real disgusting situation. I mean, if I do think about, I guess when we do the next update video, which we will, we can do that from a week from now, give or take. I'll probably remember it by then, and we can continue part 2 of this kind of little discussion thing, where we'll probably have more time to go into deeper detail on things. But anyway, I'm not gonna try to force myself to think of it, because my mind's just gonna sit there and argue with
Well,
me
we
about
can we can do it when you're physically showing progress, which obviously you'll know before anybody.
it. Exactly. Oh yeah, exactly. Um, anyway, I guess
Okay,
it's
so explain the stuff. What is it? What's it supposed to do, etc. Explain it.
first of all, let me open up the box here. Here is the Youngevity package box that I received in the mail on my birthday, actually. So it's been probably, yeah, at least a week or so, week and a half, just about, since I got this. I've been waiting to do a hangout on this. It comes with some nice air packaging, and it comes with a nice little kind of bill in there, just kind of telling you what you got. But comes in a nice box, for protection, etc. But here is the Tangy Tangerine 2.0. It is basically what it is it's a multivitamin mineral complex. It's got whole foods, trace minerals, antioxidants, probiotics, prebiotics, amino acids, essential cofactors, and more. I'm essentially reading off the box. It basically has vitamin A, vitamin C, D3, E, vitamin K, thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, vitamin B6, folate, vitamin B12, biotin.
Does it
And
list off the IUs?
let's see.
Like for example, with my vitamin D.
Vitamin A, 10,000 IUs, vitamin D3, 1,000 IUs, vitamin E, 60 IUs. Okay, 40 mcg, 30 milligrams of thiamine. Yeah, a few of these it lists IUs, but not everything. A lot of the other stuff is in different
By the way,
measurements.
humans are supposed to get 10,000 IUs of vitamin uh, D or D3, whatever you want to call it, per day. I've got these pills. They're pretty cheap. Nutrigold, vitamin D3 Gold, and it's 5,000 IUs per pill, and it's a pretty reasonable price, so that's cool. But yeah, other than the low vitamin D count on there, I'd say it sounds like you're doing pretty good with it. It seems pretty jam packed with stuff. How much did it
Yeah.
run you, and how long is the supply supposed to last? And is it caplets, gel caps? What exactly do you have there?
Well, it's basically, let me finish off the list here. It's got folate, vitamin B12, biotin, pantothenic acid, if I said that right, probably not. Calcium, iron, magnesium, zinc, selenium, copper, and chromium. It's got a lot of good stuff in it. They are 120 tablets. They're tablets. Organic, non-GMO, pesticide-free whole foods. 160,000 total ORX per serving. And from what I read on the recommended daily dose, it said suggested use as a dietary supplement for adults. Take 4 tablets once daily or as directed by your healthcare professional. Keep the lid tightly closed in a cool, dry place, etc. For me, I'm probably just what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna take 2 of them, just kind of get a kickstart in the system. Just take 2 at once, take a good, heavy dose of these. Then what I'm gonna do later or tomorrow, I'm going to take 1 a day with my other regimen, which I can go get. I might as well, because while we're on. And this bottle right here, this bottle of Tangy Tangerine cost me $47.50, which isn't bad. You know, that's pretty good for, you know, something that's got as much jam packed into it as it does. But you know, it's for what you're paying. You're paying pretty much the same as you would for, you know, any really good, you know, super vitamin out there. You know, if you're buying colloidal gold, you're probably going to pay about the same for a bottle of colloidal gold, depending on what the size is. But yeah, it's $47.50. Beyond Tangy Tangerine tablets, made by Youngevity Products. You know, it's, from what I hear, I've heard really good reviews on this stuff, and I'm about to try it for the first time. But before I do that, and before I go get a bottle of water, I'm going to show you a little bit else of what I am doing and what I am taking really quickly before we get this show on the road here. So I will be right back, and I will go get that stuff.
Okay, so anybody watching, whether you're watching live or you're watching this after the fact, please hold one moment. Richard will be right back. And it seems he might even be back sooner than I thought he'd be back. Look at that. He is already back. What do you know?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so here is the list, or well, here's the lineup of what I'm currently taking. I take this every day. It's ASAP 10 silver solution, immune system support. It's colloidal silver. It's very good for you, good for your immune system, good for the neural networks in your brain. It's, you know, silver is one of those vital elements that your body needs.
I take it too. I take the silver and the gold. 2 bottles of silver, 2 bottles of gold. I actually mix them all together, so it's like 4 bottles of a mix, and I just give it a good shake before I, you know. But basically those 4 bottles last me at least a minimum of 6 months, sometimes closer to a year. So I'm paying like, let me see. I think a little under 100 or so for the 4, but like, you know, that lasts the better part of the year. I only just take a tiny little bitty bit and put it into like a 2 liter bottle of, you know, whatever pop juice, etc., whatever I'm drinking, just a tiny little tinge, and that's all you need. Do that every day, and it's cool. Yeah, so here's just to prove the point. There's my silver. Well, it's the bottle anyway. I mean, it's a mix of everything in there, and that's why this kind of looks purple, because yay, mixed up silver and gold. But yeah, that's the bottle for the gold, and there's 2 different types of vitamin D3. There's that one, and there's that one. Another thing I take that's really good, and this is for urinary tract, excretory, that sort of thing, help keep you clean. And I also take apple cider vinegar. It tastes really nasty, which is why in the pill form it's better. Most people can't stomach actually drinking a shot of apple cider vinegar because it burns and it's nasty. So these definitely help make things better. And I also take some dandelion root. That's like really good for keeping healthy. And I take a bunch of other stuff too, but I'll just leave it there. People get the point.
Quite. I'll just do a little zoom up here on this ASAP 10 so you can all see it right there. Good colloidal silver. I've yet to get colloidal gold. That's definitely something else I'll have to invest in, that Dave keeps telling me to invest in, because colloidal gold is also another good neural network conductor, and it's also very good for your body. It's one of the very good neutral noble elements that are out there that, you know, anybody should be taking for immune system support. Another good vitamin that I take once a day is Airborne Everyday Immune Support Plus Multivitamin. Right there. And it's basically just another immune system support tablet, and it's got a bunch of minerals in it. Vitamin A, 2,000 IUs. Vitamin C, 500 milligrams. Vitamin D, 400 IUs. Vitamin E, 30 IUs. You get the idea. Another one of my favorites that I love, which I think everybody should take, especially if you suffer with allergies or you have issues. I don't suffer with allergies very much. Maybe in the past I would get like a kind of a springtime kind of hay fever thing that would happen where my nose would start to burn and the back of my throat would get all nasty and I'd be spitting up brown gunk, just because my body was reacting to the pollen in the air. I started taking these bee caps one daily with my little regimen here. And basically what they are is they're not vitamin B, but they're bee pollen, which is 1,000 milligrams of bee pollen, bee propolis, 400 milligrams, roe jelly, 200 milligrams, and raw honey, 100 milligrams. And basically it's just, it's pure bee products. It's the best products you can get out of the hive, And it's basically very good for energy, strength, stamina. It's great for, it alleviates any allergies or joint problems. It gives you all the benefits of like being stung by a wasp or a bee without having to be stung. You basically, you have all of that energy, that vitality. It's, really good stuff, really does the job. Awake, alert, wakes up your mind. It's brain food. It's very good.
I didn't know. I didn't know bees.
Well, it's interesting. There's actually, whether they're wives' tales or there's a little bit of science, but I've experienced, I've been stung.
Oh, wait. I've seen it. There was a documentary. You just reminded me of it. There's a documentary where people were actually using bee sting therapy to cure skin cancer.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, I've heard of all sorts of wives' tales, and I haven't seen there is scientific evidence out there that there are a lot of good things that bees can do. I've heard people curing the fever or the flu, using bee stings, because it's got properties in the venom that can detox the body and et cetera, and so on and so forth. But essentially what this stuff is, it's basically you can get from a bee energy and everything out of the hive, basically in a tablet, no pain necessary. You don't have to put a bee in a cup and basically have it sting you. You don't have to suffer through that agony, But I have been stung by wasps a couple of times, and from my experience, the energy I get out of these is the exact same as like that post-wasp sting. You get that real sense of like, you're on it, it boosts your testosterone. It boosts everything. I mean, it's totally healthy. It's good for the system. They tell you to take 2 a day. I take 1 a day because, I do my whole regimen here, which is kind of a small regimen, but it's better than nothing in this day and age. You do what you can for your body. And then besides the tangy tangerine, which I'm about to do here shortly, and then we're going to wrap this whole hang up out because Dave's getting tired. We'll do something soon, hopefully sooner rather than later, on the result, on some of the starting results of tangy tangerine. The final thing in my current lineup that I do is these Daily Men's multivitamins. Basically supports heart and male reproductive health, which, everything that a guy needs. You can never have too much testosterone, but basically I'll read off the list. Vitamin A, 3,500 IUs. Vitamin C, 60 milligrams. Vitamin D, 700 IUs. Vitamin E, 22.5 IUs. Vitamin K, thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, vitamin B6, folic acid, vitamin B12. I'm going to have to eventually fill up on this again, but essentially there's that. Daily Men's multivitamin.
Yep, and in a moment here, Richard is going to be doing a strip tease down to the buff to entertain the ladies. No, just kidding. He's going to take off. He's gonna take off his shirt for visual video record for the first day that he's taking the tiny tangerine, and
Tangy
then
tangerine.
or tangy. Sorry, I'm half asleep. And then when he makes some progress, we'll be able to go back into that record screen share, pause it, and have that evidence of when he first started, and then do a comparison, and then just kind of keep going like that every couple of weeks or however long it takes. I don't know what rate he's going to be losing fat or whatever, but at whatever increments, we're just going to kind of catalog so that we can keep track of the information as to how effective this product is or not, so that he can be the living proof of how effective it is or not. So obviously, when people are considering something, they want proof, they want evidence, not just somebody's word for it. So we're just going to experiment with this and see what happens, and hopefully the evidence that will be provided over time is going to be good, positive results. So we hope. We're going to find out.
That we are, Mr. Kelso. That we are. That is part of the scientific method. You've got to test things out for yourself and see where those conclusions lead up to in your final overall answer. We've got a good hypothesis, but we're going to put these hypotheses to good effect. So I'm going to go get a bottle of water and strip off my t-shirt, and we're going to get this show on the road.
Yep, we're not going to be torturing you all for too much longer here. I'm just going to kind of get this on visual record, and then after that, I can't really think of anything else to say after that. I don't think Richard has any other thoughts on any of the stuff we've been discussing, at least not as far as I know. He'll speak for himself when he gets back. And he's back.
Welcome, my chest world of YouTube, my chest. Hopefully it's still. Anyway, you can all see my chest here. There it is. All perfectly in display there. That's it to work here. So that's kind of. There we go. Headset's working, functioning properly now. Okay, so let's take the lid off of this good stuff here.
Yeah, so day one, week one.
Day one, week one. That's right. We've got a little kind of good. You can see the top there. It's got a little kind of protective seal, obviously, on it, so that way, your product hasn't been tampered with. Peel this thing off. It's actually a pretty good damn seal. Take out the knife. Wow, it's even packed with cotton ball on top. Some good old cotton balls in here. Probably just to protect the product, but that's definitely good to know.
For those of you only just clicking into the live stream now, yes, Richard is completely and totally naked. I'm totally kidding. Rewind a little bit after the live stream's over. Just trolling.
Make it only to my chest. Here you go. Right there. Crimson Flake if you're fapping to my chest. just know at least I have the balls to show my chest on screen as I am, as God created me, unlike you when you hide behind your screen calling me a pedophile because you have nothing else better to do. Because you're a crazy little psycho stalker.
No, pedophile, redneck, communist hick who I am supposedly mind controlling for no reason because unicorns.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, let's whip out a couple of these puppies here. Don't know if you can see those kind of pills there.
They are orange.
They're orange, given the name Tangy Tangerine. Okay, now here we go. Bottoms up. Here's to health.
Yeah, this should definitely give Katerina and Kristen some interesting dreams if they watch this. Oh, yes.
Possibly so. And various other females that I will not mention because I respect them and I'm not going to mention them out of respect. Personal female friends of mine who might have deeper feelings at this point, who have had deeper feelings for me in the past, but anyway, that's not public information, that's private information, just putting it out there just enough that if they ever happen to see this, they know what I'm referring about without saying it. Anyway, that's 2 of those bad boys down the hatch. We'll see what those bad boys start to do for me within, even by morning, I guess we'll see. Those things might start going to work right away and start, cleansing out the system and doing some interesting things. I've already taken my regimen for today. I'll take one of these tomorrow with my normal regimen as I normally would. But anyway, there's not much more to that. I'm not going to magically transform into some, unicorn or butterfly and go fly off into the cosmos somewhere. It's not that exciting. Just me popping a few really good tangy tangerine.
Actually, I do kind of start. I'm kind of seeing the beginnings of like little nubs on your back there for like where wings are starting to grow out. I'm kidding.
Well, I always said I wanted to fly. There you go. Yeah, then I can say to all. Then I can travel back in time, and the people who were sitting there laughing at the Wright brothers, saying, "If God had wanted man to fly, would have given him wings." And I would stand there and go, "Speak for yourself, bitch," and then fly.
Up and away.
But anyway, yeah, that's my little lineup, and next video I'll go back through the vitamin lineup of what I'm doing and what I've been doing for anybody who hasn't watched this video and happens to catch the next one.
As he chases the vitamins down with some 200 proof. Just kidding.
Duh.
And suddenly it goes from kidding to not kidding. Well, it's not 200 proof, but...
No, if it's 200 proof, my guts would be falling out. No, it is not alcohol. No, it's water.
Now you've got some vodka, don't you?
Yeah, I do. A bottle of water of vodka serving that big would make me so schnockered I'd probably be vomiting all over the floor right now. It wouldn't do me any good.
You'd be
a human being.
You'd be vomiting up your tangy tangerine, and that just would not be productive.
No, that would do counter to what I was originally intending, which was to tangy tangerine go through my system rather than right back out. That would be one expensive pile of puke.
Yeah, no kidding.
Not going to do that.
So, are we ready to end the broadcast then? Nothing else you need to say about anything?
Oh, nothing else right now. Everything I've said, I've pretty much said. So
Yeah.
I'm already beginning to feel that stuff starting to go to work, though. I can literally start to feel it within my guts and stuff.
Yeah.
If that
I'm just
tells you
so
anything.
I'm just so tired that it's taken so much energy to focus. That's why, like, I had my camera off for most of the time because I don't think anybody really wanted to see me with my head down, staring aimlessly at the floor while I'm listening to you. So I don't think anybody would have really been too entertained by that. So I had the camera off because it's difficult for me to focus right now on keeping, my head to the camera and everything and looking presentable. So, I mean, I was listening to everything you said, but physically I was slumped over like a pile of mush. So this is taking a lot of extra energy for me to just kind of sit up and be like I am right now. My body wants to fall over. So I think we can wrap that up, right?
I believe so. Yeah, everything that's been done in this episode has been done. So.
Okay, cool. Thank you everybody for watching. We'll keep you updated and all that good stuff, and I'll definitely correct my little spelling slip from tiny to tangy. So everybody have a good day, night, whatever it is in your part of the planet, and peace out.